Yo, what is going on today? This is John Ross Marcus Cox here with the Way Too Much JRMC podcast. Trying to get back to you a little quicker than usual here. I can't keep calling the show way too much if I'm only giving you like one every couple weeks, right? So gotta start speeding those bad boys up a little bit. But thanks for getting back with me here today. For those of y'all who listened to our previous show, sent me over feedback and comments and text message, all that stuff. I appreciate y'all listening. The show's only going to improve if you all continue, to do that and to be engaged and all that good stuff. So appreciate you. Just a little, couple house cleaning items. So it's just like always, the best way to get the word out on the show is going to always be to, just share that bad boy far and wide. Just copy and paste the URL and whatever, social media platform you're using, all that good stuff. And let's grow this thing. Also you find me on, Facebook, Instagram. I'm going to be soon to be on TikTok, Twitter, all that good stuff. Just search Way Too Much JRMC and you'll find me right there with the same show tile and all that good stuff there. So let's get right at it. Title of the show today: Mask or Off. I'll see a little bit of play on words there. Not talking about actual mask over our faces, even though here in Louisville, Kentucky, I did find out today that one of our large hospitals here in Louisville has dropped their mask mandate. So that's obviously awesome, but it's also ridiculous that it's just not happening. But it makes it even more ridiculous that our schools are saying if we go back into the red category, whatever that means, that our kids got to go back into mask. So, but today the first thing I want to talk about. So, back on, I guess that would be, because it was Tuesday, we finally heard back from the panel with Jefferson County Public School System regarding whether or not they were going to remove the book that Miranda Stovall had challenged back a couple months ago, Genderqueer Memoir by, I think it's Maya Kobe or something, so you say it. This book, just to remind everyone, it's absolutely out of control. It's in like, I think she was challenging it in a middle school, but trying to get it out of all of our public school libraries, not regular libraries, public school libraries, where children are, right? We don't have just middle school libraries. Most libraries are a wide range of age groups, because it's not just, a lot of times you have 4th, 5th, 6th graders in a middle school. But in this comic book, it's an illustrated book, so it's not like a novel. I mean, there are pictures of a minor performing sex acts on an adult. I mean, it's stuff I can't show it on YouTube, can't show it on Facebook, and as Miranda Stovall showed, you can't even read what is said in a school board meeting, because the pastor that's on the school board will say that it is obscene, but then we'll vote to leave it in the schools. So the school that it was in didn't have its own site-based decision-making council, so it had to go between in front of this other board, and they had 60 days to rule on it, and basically came back and said that they're going to leave it in there. I mean, it has nothing to do with, I don't even know if these people ever even picked up the book to look at it. Everything is so partisan now that like we can't even, our kids aren't even like left out of the political battle. So I'm just going to read a little bit from the article here. This was from one of our local news stations. It says, Genderqueer Memoir been a flashpoint for censorship in schools and libraries throughout the U.S. The American Library Association, which awarded the graphic novel an Alex Award in 2020 as a book written for adults with special appeal to young adult audiences, listed the title as the most challenged work in public libraries, schools, and universities in 2021 based on its tracking of literary disputes. Lynn Reynolds, Executive Director of Library Media Services for JCPS, said all books challenged in JCPS libraries dealt with LGBTQ or racial subjects. Man, to me, that's just so... Lumping those two categories in together, it should ignite fury in people's bellies, especially if you are of a minority race. If you're black and you didn't have like the right to vote until 50 years ago or whatever, and you're starting to drink out of different water fountains, the fact that they're lumping in what they see as a right to put pornography in elementary libraries with racial issues that a lot of people in this country were alive during the times back in the 50s, 60s, obviously, that they would lump those two together. To me, that's just despicable, man. So Chris Hartman, the executive director of the Kentucky Fairness Campaign, called the appeal an attack against all LGBTQ books. Give me 1 second. Sorry, it's something in the background making noise. So said this was an attack against all LGBTQ books. This is a book that's won 2 prestigious awards from the American Library Association, the oldest and largest library association in the entire world, and has been nominated for a dozen other awards that aren't just LGBTQ specific. He said, so yes, this is a clear attack against this book and all LGBTQ books across the board. In their decision, the SBDM Appeals Board said genderqueer illustrates a lived experience that is not often represented in literature, especially in literature geared towards young adult or high school age students. So they're telling you it's geared towards these people, towards the younger people. One of the key roles of our school libraries is to provide our students with access to diverse literary works that allow our students to see themselves and their peers reflected and to grow and learn in a safe and inclusive environment. The board understands and respects the right of the parents to make informed choices about literature to which their students have success. Well, obviously you don't. To them, they think choice means that once they choose if they put it in there or not, then you can choose to let your kid read the book if you find out they read it. You know, because they're also not telling you that they're reading the books when they find out they are. They're not telling you when they're using they're using a different name or calling them by a different gender or calling them Z or Zay or whatever those things are. So it's clear to me that these people, they're unfit to be leaders. It's a sad state of things. You know, they want to be liked so bad that they are willing to leave stuff in school libraries. That there's no way they would let their kids see this stuff. There is no way. When I see it, it makes me it just disgusts me. So, but again, they've taken their mask off. They're not hiding it anymore. Like, that's the good thing about even all these challenges that are being shot, that are being blocked and being denied or whatever. It's forcing them to take a stand. It's forcing them to take their mask off and show you who they are. Okay, there was a couple other. This is like the third time I've tried recording this podcast. You know, I've just been trying to figure out how to. If something's been on my heart, just wanted to instead of just bringing up problems, you know, trying to differentiate the movement I want to be a part of, and what principles and all that, you know, what that would mean. But in order to do that, I have to talk about a couple other things. So this other article that was planning on doing a podcast on, and I'm just going to briefly touch on it here, was the article from where the adult from North Dakota ran over an 18-year-old in cold blood, hit him with his SUV, because he said that the 18-year-old was threatening them, or he said he ran over him because he was a part of a extremist Republican group. An 18-year-old. Here's the deal. I'm a very strong conservative opinion. An 18-year-old that comes at me with a bunch of liberal nonsense, I'm not going to run over them with my Suburban. They're 18. They're still babies. They're children. Think about who you were at 18. I'm not mad at any young kid for being what they say. If you're young and not liberal, you have no heart. If you're old and not a conservative, you have no brain. I think that's how it goes. So but again, they're taking their mask off. Okay, like they can't hold it in any longer. The left machine is getting so out of control that they can't rein in the people that are the people are going to do what they're going to do. They just ran over an 18-year-old with an SUV because he said he was a Republican extremist. Didn't name a group, didn't say what he said to him or anything like that. You have a professional, a professional who's also a black woman, and Lynn Reynolds, the executive director of library media services for JCPS, lumping in the decision to keep a pornographic book aimed at young, they call them young adults, but we're talking about middle school kids here. But these books are in even younger than that libraries. Lumping that in with racial issues. That's a slap in the face. If I was black, I'd be pissed. I'm just being honest. You wasn't allowed to walk in a classroom with white people like 60 years ago. You had to drink out of a separate water fountain. That woman is saying that these two things are equivalent. I mean, if it's bigoted to me to say that is absolutely absurd, then whatever. It just is what it is. And then I saw another article that I was also going to talk about. I've attempted to talk about it a couple of times, but afterwards I didn't feel like they were very interesting episodes, and that is why this show is at least being live streamed. Even though I'm going to be putting out on other platforms, I need the live stream mechanism to hold me accountable and make me feel like I'm doing my, putting it on the line, because it's going to, no matter if I delete it or not, it's still going to be on the interwebs. In this article, this was from Canada, obviously, but listen, this stuff's coming here. Just like I'm saying, like if it's happening in Kentucky. If the same crazy lunacy is happening in Kentucky, it's happening everywhere between Canada and Kentucky for sure. Where this teacher who was transgender was, it looked like a caricature when they showed a picture of the fake boobs that he was wearing, prosthetic boobs he was wearing. They were literally like, you couldn't blow up balloons as big as these boobs were underneath the shirt. And like this guy was wearing this stuff to a middle school classroom, and the school, instead of saying like cut it out, like we already know these little boys are going through like whatever hormonal changes they're going through in puberty, like this stuff doesn't need to be going on in here. Like they're not. You don't even have them like implanted in your body. You're literally wearing fake boobs. And the school was, instead of saying they were putting in protections to protect their students, they literally were saying that they were putting in protections to protect their teacher from hate, pretty much. So again, like they're protecting the fringes, and the fringes are the loudest, and they're scared of them. That's what I've come to. So you got some people that are ignorant, and that want to be want to show empathy so bad they become idiots. Okay. Then you got people who are scared because all they just want a title or money, or like want to be able to go home and watch TV without people without thinking people are talking bad about them or whatever, so they'll be into whatever. But then you have just then you just have the evil people that just rule over all the other ones. I mean, I don't even know how to put it all into terms. Exactly what's happening. I really don't. It just seems like no one is out there. It seems like no one's out there caring about our kids or caring about our way of life or anything like that. So that brings me to really what I'm trying to talk about today. And what really drove it home today, and what made me realize I do for sure want to talk about this. And a lot of times I get stuff from like our Facebook group comments and all that. But I've seen this so many times, and I saw it when I was in Frankfurt, and then they're trying to get bills passed and everything like that. We have this faction of the Republican Party that it's so dead set on being reasonable and being the like moderates and being the compromisers, and they want so badly to be the smartest ones and to be like the liked ones that they just principles and values mean nothing. Like as soon as the issue penetrates their little bubble and it may affect them in some form or fashion, all principles and values go out the window. And so these same people are the ones that absolutely refuse to understand the attack on vocabulary and terminology and this redefining of terms that we're undergoing here. One specific example I'm talking about here is the term nonpartisan. Let me tell you what I mean by that. So in Kentucky, at least, and obviously, but just think about Supreme Courts for everywhere, whether it be a state Supreme Court or the federal Supreme Court. Those are supposed to be nonpartisan races. School board races are, at least in Kentucky, they're nonpartisan, right? So what that's supposed to mean is that you can't be endorsed by the Republican Party or the Democratic Party. You can't have an R by your name or a D by your name on the ballot. Some people have equated that with meaning that you can't say you have certain principles and values, or that you lean a certain way. I mean, that's called the First Amendment. It's called free speech. What nonpartisan, what that term is turned into for everyone that tends to say it. It's a way for establishment Republicans, the rhinos of the world, and for the Democratic Party to get around having to tell you anything that they really believe. If a race is nonpartisan and they've already established that a certain stance is widely held by one of the political groups, then to them you should just not even opine. That because it would make you appear partisan, you shouldn't even say anything. That's absolutely stupid. We have a Supreme Court justice here in Kentucky named Joseph Fisher. He's not a Supreme Court justice. He's running for Supreme Court, but he's been a Republican House rep for like 20 years or something. He's open with the fact that he's the conservative. I mean, how could if he wasn't telling you that, he'd be lying to you. He's been a Republican House of Representatives member for like 2 decades. He wrote like one of the most pro-life pieces of legislation in the state, is from what I understand. So like, of course he's a conservative. What are you talking about? What do you want him to say? And here's the truth. They've convinced you that him telling you the truth is unethical. And yes, I'm talking to you. I'm talking to Republicans. I'm talking to you all that were commenting on. If you commented on the thread that I'm talking about, you know who I'm talking to. They've convinced you that in order for it to remain a nonpartisan race, you have to be willing to let them lie to you or withhold information from you that you already know is true. And conveniently, the left has done a wonderful job framing being pro-Second Amendment, being pro-life, being pro-family, being pro-education reform, being against government mandates. They have framed all of those stances as Republican. So if you're running as a school board member and you are running on education reform or school or vouchers or school choice or getting the gender indoctrination stuff out of schools, you are by default a partisan hack and you should not even be able to be on the ballot. It's like, well, if I can't have an opinion about the topics that pertain to the office I'm running for, how am I supposed to run for office? Then on the flip side, those same people will fail to see how when your state constitution says that you can't, if you have any kind of a indirect or direct relationship with the topic being voted on, that you have a constitutional requirement of disclosing that indirect or direct relationship and then abstaining from voting, or you're a felon. Those same people think it's ridiculous to actually try to enforce that, and instead encourage the fact that we will put a bill pertaining to medical freedom, vaccine mandates, on the committee that you chair solely because of your direct relationships with the area of interest. These same people legitimately think that when it comes to masks in schools, that by saying you want state legislatures to put it in law that parents make the ultimate choice and no schools can make you wear a mask, they think you are making people not wear a mask. They think they currently are giving you the choice to wear a mask or not because you can choose to not send your kid to public school. Am I the only person that sees how absolutely idiotic that is? How bass-ackwards that is? I can't be. I mean, I know I'm not. I mean, that's obviously rhetorical. I know I'm not the only one. But we let these people say this stuff in public, and we let them off the hook. The person I'm talking about here is a prominent member of the community. Huge business owner. Okay? I'm not scared of that. If you say something stupid, it's stupid. If I say something stupid, it's stupid. Just because I got long hair and a beard and you think I'm crazy and I might key your car, it doesn't mean that, like, you don't have a right to call something I say is stupid. If I key your car, I'll get charged. You know, I mean, like, I feel like it's just like nobody wants to just, we're dancing around all these unwritten rules instead of just following the rules that were written 250 years ago and that, like, work. They want it to be nonpartisan, and I'm fine with it. I mean, okay, I'm fine with it being nonpartisan. I'm fine about that. But I literally see people think I see them commenting on things, and I hear them talking on other podcasts about how because they assert that your position on something is conservative or Republican, that by telling people that position, that you are now a partisan hack and you're violating the nonpartisanship of the race. It's not my fault that there's no one on the running with a D by their name as a Democrat that isn't living in a parallel universe. That they hold zero. I mean, I have yet to find a stance that I can like fit into my worldview. Because they become like the most authoritarian party of all time. Now, I'm not saying like, the Republicans are perfect. I can tell you right now, there's bigger problem. I mean, the person I'm talking about now, the group of people I'm talking about, I'm mostly talking about Republicans. Because again, like Democrats, they've already they ain't even their mask are off. Their proverbial mask, they're off. They ain't even lying to you anymore. But you still have this faction, the Republican Party. They're troublesome whether they're already in office or if they're voting people in office. The person the comments I'm talking about right now, it was literally because this person running for Supreme Court justice was calling themselves a conservative. They state that they agree with almost all of their positions, but because they can't trust them to stay nonpartisan, and I'm using the like weirdo air quotes right now for those of y'all that aren't watching, because they're not keeping it nonpartisan, they can't trust them to follow the Constitution. That is absolutely absurd. And these people are loaded with money. So you obviously don't have to be able to think it all the way through to like get that paper. So we got to be on the lookout for those people, and we got to school them, or we got to put them on blast. Here's what I tell my kids that play sports for me. It is not their job to stop them. It's not my job to keep them from succeeding. It's my job to help them succeed. It's their job to go out there and put it on another team. In this instance, me putting somebody on blast that has a terrible opinion on things, that's not me being a jerk or me being not having, what's the room for here? Being able to empathize with them or sympathize with them or whatever. It's none of that. Like, it's just calling a spade a spade. What's wrong with that? That people need to know. We're not talking about their preference on like toilet paper. My other observations, like I said, the left has been they've taken their mask off. They hate your kids, man. They hate them. Just like they failed they're failing to see that literal illustrations of minors giving oral sex to adults. How they fail to see how it's irresponsible and absolutely gross to put stuff like that in, to keep stuff like that in school libraries. They can't see that. They cannot even fathom or begin to consider the impacts that shutting schools down during COVID had. They still think, well, if we just saved one life. They can't even fathom the fact that like they may have lowered the quality of life to such an extent on millions of kids no, I'm sorry. If it saved one life, it wasn't worth it. In Kentucky, we had like 12 total children die with COVID. So no, it wasn't. And I have 4 kids. I'm not being insensitive. I'm really not. I'm actually trying to rise above the emotions of the moment. They hate your kids. They want women and doctors to be able to choose to murder a child at up until the point of birth. That's what an abortion is. We're not talking about ending the pregnancy, taking that baby out, trying to save it, and then giving it an opportunity to be adopted. We're not talking about that. We're talking about the purposeful ending of a child's life. They want that to be legal. They see that as a healthcare right. And then the ones that they can't get, stopped from getting out of the womb, they will spend those first 18 years of their lives indoctrinating them to hate the country they live in, hate the principles and values that their families hold dear, and confusing the crap out of them by telling them there's 100 different genders and allowing 4, 5, 6, 7-year-olds to make decisions that we've known. Like, I think right now a lot of people can't even begin to grasp the fact that that people in leadership are wanting to allow 7, 8-year-olds to make decisions. We all know that's a bad idea, except for the people that are actually there to be able to make the decisions. They think the separation of church and state is there to protect the state. The same way that, like, I'm saying, it's like things are inversed. It's like with nonpartisan races, especially on the Supreme Court, the point is that the Constitution is supposed to be the lens those people are looking through no matter what. Except right now, if you look through the lens of the Constitution, that means you're a conservative Republican. For strict Constitutionalists, you're a Republican. So if you're a teacher and you believe in God, you're a Christian, you're a Republican. So they think that religion would infect the state. Whenever I would argue that on the flip side of that, separation of church and state is there to protect the church. Because you bring in the bureaucracy of the state, it ruins everything. Now, like I've said on previous podcasts, I don't want public schools teaching the 10 Commandments and all that. That's my job as a parent. If you're a parent and you're lazy and you don't want to teach your kid, you think when your kids get off the bus that you can just sit in the recliner and rock and sit and watch football and drink a beer and you shouldn't have to do anything else, you're part of the problem too. This idea that while they're in school, we can't teach them any values. Well, then why aren't they in school? Why are they in school? We're not teaching them then. Of course we're trying to impose our values on our children. Of course we are. What are we talking about? They hate our kids. They hate the country. They hate our neighbors. Hate our conservative values. Anything our kids love makes them smile, makes them think freely, or makes them proud of the country, makes them feel a part of a bigger American picture. Faith, family, football, the flag, the Constitution, the Bible, what you name it. They hate it. And the more chaos they can fuel, the better, is the way they see it. They want everything to crumble. And historically, it's been okay for them because they've been the only ones that wanted to crumble. So like I said at the beginning of the show, one thing I've been dealing with here as of late is the fact that, when I'm on these shows, I don't want to just bring up problems and not talk about, not tell you anything about what I believe or what I positive ways forward or solutions, whatever. I see that now a lot with school board races. We talk a lot about what's bad about school boards right now, but I don't hear a lot of here's the policy I want to institute in order to improve things. But one thing I think this show here today is really hitting home on is that, like, this is what we're talking about now. What I'm talking about, we were talking about something new. Maybe it's happened before, like, sure it has. But as far as the political spectrums on September 29, 2022, what's happening and the movement I'm talking about, it's different. It's not establishment Republican, and it's definitely nothing on the left. But everything I'm about, I feel like when I'm out talking about it in the community, I find it's hard for me to find anybody that disagrees. Black, white, Republican, Democrat, Hispanic, whatever. Like, when I talk about the issues, people agree. I think I know why. A few reasons. Biggest reason is, historically in America, really only two types of people ever got to a point where they could talk about any of this stuff. Either the good old boy Republicans, or, I guess the easy way to say it, just like good old boy Democrats. And the people that latched onto their coattails on both of them. So the left's used to only their crazies getting out there and talking. The right's used to only, the George Bushes and Mitch McConnells and all those types getting to talk. And then they compromise, right? They keep it nonpartisan. Go Google the Uniparty. You know what I'm talking about. They're all the same. Big government, big business. Pro-China, all that. Let's send another $87 billion to the Ukraine. That's what they think. So what's different about what I'm talking about, what this movement is like, first time maybe ever in history, normal people can make an impact and talk about things, and even though they may have accumulated a crap ton of student loan debt, they've become educated and well-read and all that good stuff. So this Republican Party ain't nice and clean and neat anymore. It's full of people like me. Don't look the part, sound the part, talk the part. That grew up around chaos and raised in broken homes, around sex and drugs and violence and cussing and fighting, and have J-Pay accounts on their phones. You know what I'm talking about. Got family in jail, friends in jail, been in trouble yourself, filed bankruptcy, had sex before marriage, been to the clinic before, a morning after pill. It's like a messy people now can have a voice, and that's the majority of this country. We're messy, but we have now we have the access to where we can stay grounded in principles and values, and can get the information. We can't be held down anymore by the man. And we have different opinions on things, right? Like the fact that nonpartisan is impossible. Fine, leave the R off the board and the D off the ballot, whatever. Leave those off. But it's impossible for someone to run for an office and not tell you where they stand on things. Nor should you ever want someone to be able to do that. The establishment Republicans and the Democrats want it nonpartisan, so they don't have to tell you anything. You have to guess about it. And they can keep everything, milquetoast. But this new movement, all right, I'm taking the mask off as well for us. We are right on these issues. Let's take religion, for example. Right to practice religion. The establishment right and the left, they want religious practices to be able to be controlled to some extent. Oh my gosh, we have this crazy pandemic coming and we don't know what's going to happen. We need to limit church attendance. The establishment right and the left want to be able to do that. It is not a win. Now, the people that, I keep telling people this, I'm not dogging the people that sponsor these bills or whatever, because they didn't have the benefit of like people willing to speak up yet. It was just them trying to fight. It's not a win for your state government to say, oh, you can't limit church attendance. Well, you can, just not any more than you limit attendance to Walmart. That's what we've done in Kentucky. Take taxes, for instance. Like, how about we stop having this fight about lowering taxes and getting to where we got one party wanting to lower taxes for business, and they always say like small businesses. No, that's not what they mean. Small business isn't what you're thinking small business means. They're still talking about like hundreds to possibly thousands of employees. That's who they're talking about. So they're talking about corporate. They want corporate taxes to be low. But how about instead of trying to convince everyone to, understand that we want middle class taxes lowered, how about we say, okay, well, if corporations are individuals, and that's what the Supreme Court says, if corporations are individuals, then how are individuals not also corporations? Why can't a family just incorporate? My members are my wife and my 4 kids. And now guess what? I can benefit from those same tax deductions. Because here's the deal. If you're W-2'd, you're a teacher and you're a coal miner, or you're a teacher and you're a plumber, you're paying taxes on your gross revenue. And you've probably you've never even seen corporate taxes, even S-corp tax returns, which are, the insurance agent on the street. He's an S-corp, a small corporation. They're paying taxes on their net income after all their deductions, gas, clothes, their work clothes, their car payment that was bought in the business name. Okay, as long as it's over 5,000 pounds. You know why rich people all drive Suburbans? Because they literally got to deduct that entire $70,000. It was a straight tax deduction. And if they can't use it all in 1 year, they can spread it over 5 and then depreciate it. And still deduct the gas expense, the insurance. A corporation can deduct their entire rent or their entire mortgage for their commercial property off their taxes. Yeah, you only deduct the mortgage interest. If you rent as an individual, you ain't deducting none of it. Businesses deduct all of it, all of that expense. Their utilities, their water, all that. They get deduct all of it. But you can't know what you don't know. So I'm not saying normal people are idiots for not knowing this, but they've been hiding it from you. And for the first time ever, less than average people, which I will consider myself from the upbringing I had. I got a biological father, died of drug overdose, and a stepdaddy who's an awesome person, by the way, worked in the coal mines, but I think neither one of them got a high school diploma. Sons of those men, historically, didn't grow up to own businesses and then be able to get on a podcast and possibly reach millions of people. Well, I'm here. They probably don't like it. They're going to act like I ain't here, but I'm here. I'm here to tell you this is what's happening. The stuff these corporations can deduct, big and small, it puts you in the losers column without you even knowing it. Because you can't know what you don't know. Economy. Let's talk about the economy. The right and the left, they want employers making the decisions. They want your employer to make you have to put a shot in your arm, regardless if your doctor says you should get it or not. That's what they want. That's what they're saying. That's what they're doing. What I'm about, what I see this, this conservative movement being about is, I'm willing to admit we don't live in a world anymore where you can quit your job and go next door and work at the next mom and pop store and get a paycheck. You put 20 years on the line at Ford, you probably can't go anywhere else. You're going to take that risk. Get that shot. Even they're telling you, hey, you might have a 20% chance of dying, being paralyzed. Well, I can't lose my pension. The right wants open competition, and then the libertarian types, which I used to think I was, want like open competition and open borders, and they like all these Chinese imports. But we have that at work, and then we have the left saying we want to raise wages and we want to raise minimum wage. Those two things cannot coexist. If we're going to allow Apple to make phones in China with Uyghur slave labor, we can pass as many laws as we want in Michigan saying you can give them $1,000 an hour minimum wage. Because they're not going to employ anybody here anyway. They're employing everybody in China. So y'all may think it's crazy to think someone that considers themselves conservative would say this, but like, we can raise minimum wage if we bring all this stuff home. It's crazy to me that we allow these other countries that are not playing they're not playing on a level. We're not on a level playing field. That we allow them to bring their products over here as if there's nothing going on over there. That it's not hurting our people. It's not hurting American jobs. I'm not an isolationist here, but here's the deal. If they're not on our standard of human, actually that sounds terrible. If they're on our standard of, as far as like values and how we value human life in this country, that all men are created equal, endowed by certain inalienable rights. If they're not even up to that minimum standard and they're using slave labor to produce goods, I'm absolutely okay with saying, we cut you off, bro. You're out. You can't bring your products over here. I'm cool with that. I think it's the most anti-bigoted stance possible. Yeah, maybe prices go up here a little bit. But if wages are going up too, then it's a wash, right? Am I wrong? I mean, I know it's a very simplistic view of things, and there's nuance and everything like that. But we don't live in a vacuum. In a vacuum, a lot of this stuff would work. So I'm fine with an employee-focused economic vision. The individual focused vision, protecting the employee. I'm not saying that we say that employers can't require you to get a vaccine, but I'm absolutely saying that they shouldn't be able to require you to do it, even against your doctor's orders, and still be immune to any kind of consequences. Can't be sued. That's crazy. So it's like, how I am with this is like, we're in this time where everybody thinks compromise has to happen. They just think that's politics. I'm tired of all of what politics is supposedly is. I'm tired of it. We're right. So no compromise on these things. I want to pass a bill with this verbatim language. It says, I don't care if there's a fountain of black plague flowing out of the pulpit of the church. A governor has no right to tell you cannot go to church there. That's what I want. That's what I wanted to say. From an employer standpoint, I don't want. It's like I do think you got to be able to fire people for whatever reason, because here's the deal: things get icky. But I've had employees, and I've had to let them go before for no other reason than the fact that, like, I had mismanaged funds and I didn't have enough money to continue paying them. But guess what? I had the heart and I had the confidence and the humility to tell them that, hey, I'm letting you go. Maybe we've had some rough patches, but I'm not letting you go because of those. You've been a wonderful employee and you've done well. I literally can't pay you anymore. And then I helped them find another. For most of them, I actually sent them out the door to go to their next employer to get their paperwork ready because I found them another job. But sending them packing, telling them they're fired, and then them having to go to another job when they say, well, why'd you get let go? And they have to try to come up with a reason because I'm not emotionally strong enough or self-confident enough to tell the truth is not fair to them. I don't care if it embarrassed me or not. I don't care. My emotions and that, I had to rise above it because I want to be a better person. So let's take the mask off. Let's put our ideas out there. I'm not saying they're not going to change or that someone's not going to say, John Ross Marcus Cox, you're an idiot. You missed the mark on this. And if they're not going to convince me I missed the mark. I mean, like, if at 35 I talk for the next 30 years about this kind of stuff and I never adjust my position, if that never happens, it's probably because I'm just stubborn. The main thing that cannot change is the lens that I'm seeing, that I am or that you are seeing these issues through. Which is anything political, it should be the Constitution of the United States of America and the Constitution of the state you live in. I don't care about anything else. I don't care how you feel. I don't care how I feel. I don't care how my kids feel about it. I don't care. As long as the lens I'm seeing it through is grounded in the Constitution. Constitutions. A state and federal one. So I challenge you, challenge yourself to stop thinking you're not good enough, or that you're not educated enough, or you're not smart enough, or that it's rude, or whatever, to speak your mind. To tell someone what you just said is absolutely ridiculous and embarrassing. Like, delete that comment. Or like, take out of your bio that you're a conservative, because you're not. Nothing wrong with that. Mask off, baby. It's okay if you cuss, if you say cuss words and you drink It's those things. Listen, normal people do that. Who cares if the religious right thinks you're going to hell for that? Who cares? I'd argue that they're not thinking that people aren't judging you the way that you think they're judging you. You're judging yourself. Take the mask off. Quit wearing a costume and just be who you are. Tell the truth, both when you're right and when you realize you were wrong. Talk about this stuff. Challenge people. And challenge them to challenge you. If they won't do it, it's on them. You wanted them to. But stop making everyone think that that our politics and everything's got to be like this milquetoast version. And the things that challenge the status quo are radical because they're not. Constitution does not equal conspiracy theory. This is a people movement. I firmly believe it's full of white people, black people, brown people, people from all countries, backgrounds, religious faiths. Normal people are just fed up with the extremes getting the last word on everything and passing all the bills and just totally failing to acknowledge the Constitution that was put in place to protect you. The Constitution was written down solely because our founding fathers knew there was no government on this planet that had ever been or ever would be that would follow a constitution of any kind if it wasn't written down and there wasn't proof that it existed. They needed a constant reminder, concrete reference point. So when the government attempted to deny its existence, it's like, it's right here. I'm reading it. I'm holding it in my hands. I'm touching it. It's time. It's either now. It's now or never. They're already coming for our kids, your kids, my kids, all of them. They're already attacking you for having the most basic, fundamental principles, American principles in mind. They're attacking you for that. They're already doing it. You're under assault already. This country needs you. I need you. My children need you. So let's take the mask off and let's take the fight to them. Appreciate y'all listening today. I gotta get off here, get ready for some football practice. My kids just came home, so if you heard some stomping and stuff upstairs, so I'm gonna go up and give all my kids a hug, and all y'all do the same. Again, it's